Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I am your host, Frank Acom, and we are broadcasting live and proudly from the Hesselson studio on this beautiful Monday morning. We have a lot of comments to catch up on after after Friday's program. A lot of people sent in. I do want to make a big deal out of this first, well, we already have a couple waves on the screen, but this wave in particular, you've heard us in the past say a Wyoming wave. Well, this is a new one. We have a wave from the Philippines. There we go. We're going to tell you maybe today, maybe later on. I want to coordinate with him. But Jack, friend of Frankly Speaking, who comments quite a bit on the program, is visiting the Philippines, and he sent in a very special wave. So we'll tell you more about that maybe on this program, maybe in the future. You'll just have to sit back and relax. Of course, tomorrow is the school budget vote, so feel free to weigh in on that. First, let's get to some various topics and messages, I should say, that we received over the weekend. First up, I'm very concerned about the birthright debate, and I pray the Supreme Court doesn't cave. It's the worst yet, in my opinion. A lot of questions surrounding the Supreme Court as of late, with some of the interesting takes from the quote-unquote conservative justices. We may talk about that a little bit later on in the program. Comment from a different viewer. Are you on Facebook? Well, I am. I don't use it that much. But if you search Frank Acom, I believe you'll be able to find it. But you can follow Big Fox. I probably post more, frankly speaking, updates on that than I do on my Frank Acom Facebook. But thank you for the question. Rick writes in, ain't Trump the man? I mean, getting treated like royalty and all. I see he's signing up to stop the war in Ukraine, be the go-between of India and Pakistan, stop the ravage in Gaza. Of course, his role as the finance officer for the entire world, and has the keys to a new jet. What about all the promises, or were they lies he told the people that voted for him? Lower prices for goods, cheaper rent, and lower interest rates across the board. Prices are going up, a la Walmart, for starters. Everyone else has to follow. Obviously, he didn't get my vote. Long overdue is Scott Jennings is a jerk. Not sure if he'll ever give it up. Just have to laugh at him. Scott Jennings, we talk about him a lot. I think he's doing a good job. I don't think he's a jerk. I think he's doing a good job as CNN, but he's so out of place that may be why it bothers you, Rick, because he's actually a conservative as CNN. Comment from a different viewer. Morning, Frank. Well, good morning. It might be an interesting topic to discover the diversity of the incoming freshman class at Harvard this fall, as well as other so-called universities. It'll be interesting if they release that. That's a very good point. Comment from a different viewer. Yes, I said we had a lot to catch up on. Over the weekend, I was looking at the controversy between Walmart and the president. Walmart said they always strive to keep prices low as possible. That is funny to me because I worked for them for years and I saw the markup prices. A majority of the markups were well over 50%. They used to have contests for the associates to see who could sell the most of the highest markup, and it was celebrated at the meetings. Walmart could hold back and still make a huge profit, and that's essentially what Donald Trump is saying. We're going to talk about that a little bit later on in the program. Comment from a different viewer. Here's an interesting question. Would you consider Jesus a liberal or conservative? Now, this next sentence is a little harsh, but I don't think this viewer meant it this way. Your opinion doesn't matter to me, but it might make for a very inviting discussion on your show. Also saying, an old friend of mine wrote in response to my text that he would consider Jesus a liberal in his time, but given today's politics, the question remains liberal or conservative. And therefore, given the aforementioned, how would a liberal or conservative be judged today? If liberal is our politics the best for all, or if conservatives is our politics the best for all? For the world, I'd be interested in learning about this. Well, I'll leave that up to the viewers. If you'd like to weigh in, do you believe Jesus would be considered a liberal today or a conservative? Comment from a different viewer. Let's go. 3, 2, 8 trifecta. Not necessarily in that order. And then if you watched the Preakness, I received a message. That was right before the race kicked off, and I received a message about 10 minutes later saying, and just like that, it's why I don't gamble on the horses as a means to supplement my retirement plan. I liked watching that unfold. Yes, journalism. So this person had 328. It came in 297 with journalism, the favorite, winning the race. What a comeback. If you did not watch it, I'd highly recommend you go on YouTube and review it. It was an amazing race to come back in that fashion. It makes you wonder if it wasn't such a muddy track at the Derby, if we would be looking at a potential Triple Crown. Journalism looked very, very impressive during the Preakness, and that's the last time it's going to be run as at Pimlico as we know it. They're tearing that down and rebuilding it. I had the pleasure of going once to Pimlico, during the Preakness. That's when it was still kind of that big party that you may have heard about. Now they have toned it down, and I would have to say rightfully so. That was a little wild. But journalism, 2, Gosger 9, and Sandman horse 7 was the final rundown of the top 3. Not a huge payout. I did hit the exacta, in full disclosure. Paid $33.80. So I appreciated being on that journey with you. Thanks for sending that in. So in breaking, one last comment. This one's from Mark this morning. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning, Mark. Trump is seeing a resurgence in public support, and his approval rating stands at 52%. Then Trump scores a legal win when the federal appeals court lifted a lower court junction, and finally Trump tells Walmart to eat the tariffs as a retailer expects prices to increase. We are going to talk about that. I know that's a major story. Also, again, I'd love to hear your opinion. That one viewer proposed, do you think Jesus would be a conservative or a liberal in today's society? Also, your thoughts on the school vote. So Chuck Schumer yesterday bizarrely suggested that DOGE cuts to the U.S. Coast Guard could have been partly to blame for a Mexican tall ship's deadly collision with the Brooklyn Bridge. Now, they're saying that the Brooklyn Bridge is in no way really harmed, that was built in a way to withstand a lot. Chuck Schumer, who is really grasping at straws to stay relevant, to not lose his leadership position in the Democrat Party. Many people believe he is out of date, out of touch, if you will, not ready for this battle the Democrats want with Trump. So he's trying more outlandish things. This is what he said. We know there's been meddling by the Trump administration into USCG staffing, United States Coast Guard, and we need to know how this might have impacted the events of last night from a command, communication, and local coordination level, he said in a press release. Really, in my opinion, very inappropriate to make that comment, even admitting essentially they're not sure if that's the reason that this happened. Maybe at first you do the investigation before you start trying to place the blame or trying to insinuate that it was DOGE. There are indications that this service, vehicle traffic system, may not be fully or adequately functioning in light of a hiring freeze. If this were the case, the Brooklyn Bridge accident would be a national harbinger demanding immediate attention. But there were no reports of any other ship being involved in any way in Saturday's tragedy. Now, we know this accident killed 2 Navy cadets and injured at least 17 others. It is being reported that they lost power, I guess, and went in that direction. The Coast Guard also said it responded to the scene of the deadly collision immediately upon being notified and keeping with its designated mission. So that is kind of breaking news from over the weekend. Of course, we are going to talk about Joe Biden being diagnosed with that aggressive form of prostate cancer, what people are saying. There's also other updates on the Biden administration. For whatever reason, this weekend was heavy, probably because of that book that's coming out, very heavy on criticism of the former president, making him, if you will, a scapegoat for why Democrats lost the presidential election. We'll be talking about that as well. There was a person killed in the Saturday bomb explosion outside a fertility clinic in Palm Springs, California. It was a 25-year-old from 29 Palms, the FBI said. Guy Bartkus was the sole person killed in the blast that injured 4 other people. A law enforcement source previously told CNN they believe the person killed was also responsible for the attack. The subject had nihilistic ideations. This was a targeted attack against the IVF facility. They're calling it a terrorist attack. We are fairly confident that Mr. Barkas is our primary subject, our primary suspect, a person of interest. Authorities identified Barkas' nihilistic beliefs through some of the posts that he's made online, some of the comments made in his manifesto that we're combing through right now, he said. He even tried to live stream the attack. An anti-pro-life manifesto believed to be authored by the suspect has been located and is being examined by the FBI, according to a post from U.S. Attorney for the Central District of California. Officials also are aware of a rambling audio recording posting online in which the man describes his intention to attack an in vitro fertilization clinic, and they are working to determine whether it is associated with this incident. In the oftentimes incoherent audio message, the speaker discusses various grievances about his life and criticizes IVF while referring to himself as anti-life. He said the government should not restrict an individual's right to die. The 4 people injured have all been released from the hospital, according to Palm Spring Police. The FBI is treating the explosion as an act of terrorism. Make no mistake, this is an intentional act of terrorism. The agency's Joint Terrorism Task Force is working alongside the Palm Springs Police Department and the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, describing the effort as one of the largest bombing investigations we've had in Southern California. So there's an update on some other breaking news from over the weekend. And for something completely different, and we'll talk about in the next break, former President Joe Biden being diagnosed with an aggressive prostate cancer, what people are saying about that, sending their thoughts and prayers. Of course, we do the same here. It is going to be a long road ahead for Biden. We're going to talk about that. We also have the breaking news from last night. The Republicans did advance one big, beautiful bill act out of the Budget Committee after that setback on Friday, so we'll give you a look into that as well. Just on a different note, but a breaking story nonetheless, Alan Jackson, the country music legend, is hanging up his cowboy hat for good and performed his final tour show in Milwaukee on Saturday. Jackson announced last year he would be retiring from the stage as he battled major health issues and embarked on his last call, One More for the Road tour. Y'all may have heard that I'm kind of winding down. In fact, this is my last road show of my career, he told the crowd. Y'all going to make me tear up out there. I will say that this is my last road show out here, but we're planning on doing a big finale show in Nashville next summer sometime. I just felt that I had to end it all where it started, and that's in Nashville, Tennessee, but this is the last one on the road for me. It's been a long, sweet ride. It started 40 years ago this September. My wife and I drove to Nashville with an old U-Haul trailer and chased this dream. It's been a crazy ride. I lived the American dream for sure. So blessed. Y'all have heard that I'm kind of winding down. So there you are, Alan Jackson retiring. I see some comments coming in, see some waves coming in. We will get to all of those, well, the comments, when we come back. Stay with us. This is, Frankly Speaking, here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Attention, Elmaron may lead to vision loss.
If you have suffered vision problems after taking Elmaron to treat bladder pain, call the Hearn Law Firm. Elmaron may be responsible for your vision problems, and you may deserve compensation for your injuries.
If you took Elmaron and now have vision problems, call the Hearn Law Firm at 888-308-3866 right now. You could find out if you qualify in less than 2 minutes. Call 888-308-3866 for your free case review.
You think swimming pools? Think Hesselson's. Hesselson's offers expert advice, professional service, and a complete line of chemicals and accessories. Replacement liners, motors and pumps, automatic vacuums, skimmers, ladders, steps, and more. Hesselson's has it all. Do you have a chemical question? Come in for Hesselson's free computerized water analysis and the widest selection of chlorine and specialty chemicals. With Hesselson's help, you can clean up any pool problem and swim in sparkling clean water. Let Hesselson's show you how easy it can be to take care of your swimming pool. Remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
It's the 2025 Cardboard Boat Regatta. Hope that boat is sturdy for the big day, June 14, 2025.
Who are you?
Your lungs. We are proud of you for quitting smoking, but you still may be at risk for lung cancer.
A routine cancer scan can detect it early.
Learn more at savedbythescan.org.
Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. How is the planning going in preparation? Make sure to catch Frankly Speaking only on AM Big Fox News WYDC or visit our website at WYDCTV.com. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. And how can we help like that in our small businesses, not to sound cliche, but are the backbone of our community? Let's talk about Thanks, as always, to you, the viewers, for sending in your texts and your voicemails. Now we go to a comment. This is from John in Elmira. Make sure to catch Frankly Speaking only on AM Big Fox News WYDC or visit our website. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. Comment from a viewer. I'm voting no to the Corning Painted Post school budget. There's just too much waste going on. They need to doge the district. I think you raise a very good point there. I would agree. A doge type initiative would be very helpful. What are they looking about? 8%, give or take. We can talk about that. Tomorrow is the vote. I would love to hear your thoughts, not just on Corning Painted Post, but wherever you're viewing from. Okay, so former President Joe Biden has been diagnosed with prostate cancer, according to his office. He was diagnosed with prostate cancer on Friday, with the cancer cells having spread to the bone. While this represents a more aggressive form of the disease, the cancer appears to be hormone sensitive, which allows for effective management. The president and his family are reviewing treatment options with his physicians. Dr. Matthew Smith, said it's very treatable but not curable. Most men in this situation would be treated with drugs and would not be advised to have either surgery or radiation therapy. Now, of course, many people sending their thoughts and prayers. We're going to get to that in. Well, let's do that right now. I want to make sure that I have the right one here. Let's see. Former President Barack Obama, posted a sincere message on Sunday evening saying, Michelle and I are thinking of the entire Biden family. Nobody has done more to find breakthrough treatment for cancers in all forms than Joe. I'm certain he will fight this challenge with a trademark resolve and grace. We pray for a fast and full recovery. President Trump took to Truth Social the same day, posting, Melania and I are saddened to hear about Joe Biden's recent medical diagnosis. We extend our warmest and best wishes to Jill and the family, and we wish Joe a fast and successful recovery. Former Vice President Kamala Harris posted on Sunday saying she and her husband are keeping President Joe Biden and his family in their prayers. Joe is a fighter, and I know he will face this challenge with the same strength, resilience, and optimism that have always defined his life and leadership. Her husband, Doug Emhoff, the former second gentleman, separately posted his regards. Also, Hillary Clinton posted, I'm thinking of the Bidens as they take on cancer, a disease that's done so much to try to spare other families from. A disease they've done so much to try to spare other families from. Wishing you a speedy, full recovery. Our Governor Kathy Hochul, wrote, President Biden has served our nation with distinction. During this difficult time, Bill and I are praying for his health and a speedy recovery. So there you are. Those are the comments on the breaking story that former President Joe Biden has been diagnosed with an aggressive form of prostate cancer. We do have a little bit here on the political front about Joe Biden, because obviously that book just came out that is critical of those around him. Now, they are trying to protect the media. It is quite pathetic trying to rewrite history at that level. But at the same time, there was a lot of startling information coming out of that book. We're going to talk about some of the reactions to that from over the weekend. Now, just about everybody shared a message regarding the breaking story of Joe Biden and the prostate cancer diagnosis. A lot of people wondering why it wasn't discovered earlier. As someone who has such, maybe arguably the best health care in the world. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, no fan of Joe Biden, of course, said, I'm sorry to see this news. Cancer is truly awful. My dad passed away in 2021 with cancer. Prayers for Joe Biden and his family. And like I said, Trump weighed in, so many others. So Mike Johnson said, "This is certainly sad news, and the Johnson family will be joining the countless others who are praying for the former president in the wake of his diagnosis." Steve Scalise saying, praying for President Joe Biden as he battles prostate cancer. Also, in the line of prayers, for those of you that have been kind of following along, what did you think of the new Pope's inaugural Mass? I know that a big story coming out was that J.D. Vance was there and that he shook hands with Zelensky. Pope Leo XIV called for greater global unity and denounced the harms of unchecked capitalism and power during his inaugural Mass in St. Peter's Square before tens of thousands of people, including state guests, on Sunday. This coming from DPA International. So having not seen the Mass itself, is that your takeaway if you did? Since his selection as the 267th Pope by Cardinals on May 8th, he has repeatedly called on world leaders to work towards ending global conflict. He recently offered the Vatican as a venue for peace negotiations between Ukraine and Russia. Now, the newly minted pontiff is considered a moderate bridge builder who can mediate between different camps within the church. It is widely believed that this is one of the reasons why he was chosen so surprisingly quickly by the conclave of cardinals. In his inaugural message, Pope Leo said he would work on unifying the church and that his cohesion would serve as an example for others. So your thoughts on that? As I mentioned, the one big, beautiful bill act is out of budget committee after that setback on Friday. That was a breaking story from late yesterday evening. Republicans managed to advance President Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill Act out of the House Budget Committee during a late Sunday night meeting after leadership made concessions to fiscal hawks in the wake of a revolt last Friday. And last Friday we had that, unfortunately, kind of I guess you could say fiscal hawks kind of banded together to originally stop the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. The bill cleared the committee in a 17-16 vote with 4 present. Chip Roy of Texas, Ralph Norman of South Carolina, Joe Breachin of Oklahoma, and Andrew Clyde of Georgia. Those 4 fiscal hawks previously shot down the bill from advancing through the committee last Friday. Now that the bill has cleared the Budget Committee, it heads to the Rules Committee and then eventually to the House floor. Speaker Johnson is hoping for a full floor vote by the end of this week. "We're voting on exactly what we presented the other day, last Friday," said the Budget Committee chairman. Norman quipped that, "I'm excited about the changes," without elaborating. One big beautiful bill act is what Republicans have spent months developing to serve as Trump's signature legislative accomplishment of the year and possibly of his second term. The mega bill, which spans well over 1,100 pages, features an extension of the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, no taxes on tips, no taxes on overtime pay, an increased tax deduction for seniors, beefed up border security, bolstering energy supply, and more. Now, 5 Republicans voted against advancing the budget last Friday in a 21-16 vote. Some said they did it for procedural reasons. The others cited concerns about spending and demanding the bill enact work requirements on Medicaid sooner. The initial draft implemented that in 2029. Johnson said the delay was intended to give states adequate time to adjust. Once out of the Budget Committee, the bill is expected to face headwinds from blue state Republicans who have demanded a higher state and local tax deduction cap. I don't quite understand this. I'm not against their fight, but they had the win, take the win, but they're demanding more and more. Currently, the SALT cap is at $10,000 thanks to the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. The initial draft bumped it up to $30,000. Take that win. SALT caucus members called that woefully inadequate. Moderate Republicans have also been squeamish about proposed cuts to Medicaid funding and the Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program, or SNAP. Overall, Republicans are using the monster bill to cram as many of their conservative wish list priorities through Congress as possible. We'll tell you a little bit more about it when we come back. Your thoughts on the One Big Beautiful Bill. I'd love to hear from you. I see some comments coming in. Your thoughts on the school budgets in your various townships and municipalities. please weigh in. And if you do weigh in on the budget, please, if you wouldn't mind, let me know what district you are in, so when we read it, we can be clear with the viewers. So far, so good. Everybody has been, but I think last week we had one that I thought was about Corning County Post, but I just want to make sure that I get your actual message out. All right, let's take a short break. Running a little bit late. There's just so much breaking news. Stay with us. We'll be right back. We do have some New York State issues that we'll be getting to as well, so stay with us.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
Seneca Lake offers you breathtaking views, gorgeous waterfalls, award-winning wine, and so much more. Your experience awaits you. Come experience Seneca Lake.
Fox 10 p.m. News is the first primetime local news for the Twin Tiers. Our reporters, Haley and Dante, scour the southern tier to bring you up-to-date news regarding local businesses, economics, and how national decisions impact our area. If you're not near a TV, don't worry. You can also catch our 10 p.m. news live on WYDCTV.com/livestream. Don't miss Big Fox 10 p.m. News on WYDC, on TV, or our website.
The Bix website is here now. WYDCTV.com. Local and national news that keeps you informed and involved. WYDCTV.com. Today's weather, up to date and in your town. WYDCTV.com. Sports news, local events, and health stories that affect you. WYDCTV.com. The Big Fox website. Your news here now. WYDCTV.com.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. You can see in the bottom left corner there, they're starting to put up the flowers. It's starting to look like summer out there. Watching closely as my car is parked directly underneath their work. Welcome back as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. Let's go to some viewer comments. As a current and longtime Walmart employee, I must say they treat me quite well. But on the corporate level, you must realize their main concern is not the state of our nation. It is purely profit-driven and pumping up the stock price. That is a very good and astute point, and I appreciate you sending that in. Thank you. Comment from a different viewer. Hey, Frank. Well, hey. Regarding the Palm Springs bombing being labeled as terrorism, Google AI defines terrorism. Terrorism involves the unlawful use of force and violence or the threat of violence to intimidate or coerce a civilian population or government in order to achieve political, social, or ideological objectives. A nihilist, by definition, believes in nothing. So how could there be an objective if this person does not have an objective? Just saying. Well, you raise a good point. I think that's just maybe the officials in charge just throwing around the term nihilistic or nihilist because it does have a connotation to it. But he did apparently have an objective. He did apparently have beliefs and was anti-pro-life, or I guess you could say anti-life. I'm not really sure exactly how to do that. So I think that is just the media or the powers that be perhaps using the wrong term, trying to emphasize kind of his radicalism. Just my thought on it. Also, I just wanted to mention, people have been asking me about an update on this, especially if you're a Corning resident, but even if not. Our tribute, if you will, our memorial for Dwayne Eddy is coming right along. Very excited about where we're at. If you would like to donate to that project or just find out more about what we're doing, you can go to Corning Twang, as in the sound, the Dwayne Eddy created, corningtwang.com. You can find out how to donate there, or just find about the project in general. If you donate, and you'll see on there how that's possible. That will get your name in the program. There's a lot of, we're just going to say a lot of special guests. They're going to be at the unveiling. Right now, the unveiling is scheduled for during Harvest Fest, which is September the 20th. So a big unveiling ceremony, which you could be a part of. Of course, it's going to be open to the public. But if you would like to, because I know a lot of people that watch this program have agreed with me that it's for a long time that Dwayne Eddy should have been recognized. Now, one thing I want to make very, very clear about this. Dwayne did know that we were doing this, and I'm very proud of that. I had let him know about our group and what we planned to do, and he was very excited about it, and he was very supportive of it. And unfortunately, he passed away a few months after I had told him the great news. Well, it is coming right along. I can't stress that enough, and it is essentially done, but we do need to raise some funds. Those historic marker is not free. So if you would like to be a part of that and be in our commemorative program, please, you can find out more at corningtwang.com, or you can get a hold of me on this program. I can get you all the information that you need to know at that number on the bottom of the screen. But that is an update, because I know people, and I'll be talking about it more in the future, but I know people have been asking me lately, where do we stand on that? Well, we're in very good standing. It's just now time to raise some funds. So again, go to corningtwang.com if you don't mind. All right, we were talking about the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. It's out of the Budget Committee. They're hoping one more committee, and then they're hoping to vote on it before the end of the week. Some of the things that are in the bill: permanent extension of the individual income tax cuts in the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act with some adjustments. Temporary elimination of taxes on qualified tips, overtime pay, and car loan interest payments. Ooh, that's a nice one. An additional $4,000 deduction for senior Americans in lieu of no taxes on Social Security. There are procedural reasons why Republicans can't do no taxes on Social Security, namely the Byrd rule. But a $4,000 deduction is a start, right? SALT cap increase, hikes debt ceiling by $4 trillion, $175 billion for border security, including $46.5 billion for the construction of a wall along the U.S.-Mexico border specifically, $150 billion in additional funding for defense, including $25 billion for Trump's space-based Golden Dome. And what's interesting about the Golden Dome missile defense system, I see the media is trying to be critical of it. It reminds me so much of Ronald Reagan and the Star Wars program. Remember, they labeled it Star Wars, and they were so hypercritical. Well, if you asked most people, do we have some type of missile defense like that, they would think that Star Wars was put through. It was not, because of the objections by the Democrat Party, who all of a sudden really care about spending. When it's about defense, that's when they really are very frugal, to say the least. You ever notice that? But I think most people would think that we have some type of missile defense system like that, and we do not. So again, there is criticism by the media. I'll tell you about that in just a moment, but I want to continue here. This mandates a 80-hour per month work requirement on able-bodied adults age 19 to 64 enrolled in Medicaid. Volunteer work in school would count towards that requirement. States that provide Affordable Care Act expansions of Medicaid coverage for illegal immigrants will see their reimbursement rates drop. States with error rates on SNAP benefits would be required to pay a percentage of the program. Set up a fast-track system for permitting natural gas if applicants pay either 1% of a project's cost or $10 million. Whichever amount is less. Ends the Biden-era electric vehicle mandate for 2/3 of new car sales to be EVs by 2032. Able-bodied adults without children would also see work requirements for SNAP. New money accounts for growth and advancement, MAGA savings account for parents and guardians, where the feds will pay $1,000 for children born between January 1st, 2024 and December 31st, 2028. Restrictions on large abortion providers, such as Planned Parenthood, from getting Medicaid funding. Restrictions on Medicaid funding for transgender surgeries. Eliminate the $200 tax on gun silencers. Interesting. Tax up to 21% on certain university endowments. Ooh. Tax of up to 21% on certain university endowments. Let me know your thoughts on all of this. Consolidate student loan payments into two options: standard program encompassing monthly payments over a 10 to 25-year period, or two, repayment assistance program that is more lenient. Roll back key provisions of the Inflation Reduction Act. Air traffic control modernization. Those are just some of the things in the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. Mike Johnson said this is the largest spending reduction in at least 3 decades, probably longer. It is historic. If the bill clears the House, Republicans are aiming to take it through the Senate via a process known as reconciliation, which will enable them to avoid a Democrat filibuster, something that requires 60 votes to overcome. So there is your update. Trump's legislative agenda clears the key committee vote after a weekend of negotiations. According to, that's how CNN put it. They're expecting to vote midweek. The Budget Committee hardliners applauded, discussed changes to the bill, but said there was more work to do. Had some great changes, got a lot of work to do. We're excited about that and what we did. We want to move the bill forward, and it went like I thought, said Norman. So there is your quick update. Mike Johnson, I know I'm running late. Mike Johnson saying we cannot fail and we'll get it done. That's House Speaker Mike Johnson on Fox News Sunday. He said, they're going well. We're on track, working around the clock to deliver this nation-shaping legislation for the American people as soon as possible. Look at all 11 of our committees have wrapped up their work, and they spent less and saved more than even we projected initially. Sorry, I got distracted with my wave. Okay. This really is once-in-a-generation opportunity that we have here. So you heard there the update. The Budget Committee will reconvene this evening, so this is right before that vote. It's important for everybody to understand why we're being so aggressive on the timetable and why this is really so important. This is the vehicle through which we deliver on the mandate that the American people gave us in the last election. You're going to have historic savings on the American people, historic tax relief for American workers, historic investments in border security, at the same time that we're restoring American energy dominance and we're rebuilding the defense industrial base. And we're ensuring that programs like Medicaid and SNAP are strengthened for the U.S. citizens who need and deserve them and not being squandered away by illegal aliens and persons who are ineligible to receive them and are cheating the system. And look, the tax cuts, it's critical. We're going to make the 2017 tax cuts permanent. We're going to eliminate taxes on overtime and tips, as the president promised, new tax relief for seniors on Social Security, and we're going to cut taxes on job creators. So this will help everybody across the country at the same time as incentivizing American-made production and manufacturing. This is a big thing. We cannot fail, and we've got to get this done for the American people. Now, again, criticism. Wow, I'm running late. Hold on. We'll read your comments when we come back. Keep them coming in. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
If you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and have been diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. There's no fee unless we win your case. Call today.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
Scamming seniors is a huge problem today. Worldwide, seniors lost $4.8 billion to scammers in 2024. The Steuben County Office for the Aging is here to help. Come to our seminar, Recognizing and Avoiding Financial Scams, Wednesday, June 4th at the Main Place in Hornell, New York, from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Learn how to identify scams, how to protect yourself, and fraud watch tips. Also, the Steuben County Office for the Aging will provide tips on emergency preparedness, June 4th at 12 p.m. To learn more, go to steubencountiny.gov/235.
Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. And how can we help like that in our small businesses, not to sound cliche, but are the backbone of our community? Let's talk about thanks, as always, to you, the viewers, for sending in your texts and your voicemails. Now we go to a comment. This is from John in Elmira. Make sure to catch Frankly Speaking only on AM Big Fox News, WYDC, or visit our website at The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. Let's go to some viewer comments. First one, good morning, Frank. Well, hey, good morning. Comment from a different viewer. Some 40 years ago, our federal political buddies passed the Tax Reform Act known as TRS of 1986. It was stated that a double tax, Social Security, was temporarily necessary because of a budget shortfall. 40 years later, I am still paying that double tax, while our D.C. buddies relieve others of paying tax once. At this point, I have stated a fact, and usually a comment is in order. But the fact that is older folks are paying taxes twice stands as a shameful indictment. Thank you very much for that statement. Yes, Trump's Golden Dome missile shield could cost hundreds of billions, said CNN. Now all of a sudden, fiscal hawks. That only seems to happen when it's about our defense. Trump is expected to announce his preferred option and his price point in the coming days, a decision that will ultimately chart a path forward for funding, developing, and implementing the space-based missile defense system over the next several years. Whatever one Trump opts for, it won't be cheap. $25 billion has been carved out in next year's defense budget for the system, but the Congressional Budget Office has estimated the U.S. would have to spend more than $500 billion over the course of 20 years to develop a viable Golden Dome. So a lot of criticism, but this goes back to like the Star Wars, like I was mentioning, the Star Wars plan by Reagan. So many people were critical of it at the time, but I think most people would believe that we have some type of system in place like that to shoot down missiles. We do not in that way. That's why this Golden Dome is necessary, and that is why Trump is pushing for it. So if you want to talk more about the big, beautiful bill act that was voted on and out of committee late last night, I would love to hear your take on it. Another breaking story before we go to another break, and then we're going to talk about New York State issues. A manhunt for the inmates who escaped from New Orleans jail by fleeing through a hole behind a toilet entered its fourth day this morning, with at least a dozen law enforcement agencies searching for them. I think I heard the reward was like $20,000, I think, a piece for each one. 7 of the 10 men remained at large Sunday. The agency was unable to provide details about the scope and target of the investigation for security reasons. In a separate statement, Louisiana Attorney General Liz Murrill said her office's main priority remains recovering the prisoners, protecting the public, securing and stabilizing the facility and staff. This massive jailbreak could be the largest jailbreak in the history of the state, and it never should have happened, said Louisiana Governor Jeff Landry. They even mocked, I guess you would say, the security guards, the corrections officers, because above that hole that they got out of said something like "too easy," LOL, with an arrow pointing down. Okay, now this says a $5,000 reward for each. I think that has been increased. Sunday, the FBI is offering $10,000. There it is, per inmate. Just an update from that story. That national story. Look at all these waves. And you can tell it's summertime because we're getting a lot of waves outside as well. When we come back, we are going to talk about some New York State issues. There was a lot of criticism, and of course, our thoughts and prayers go out to Biden and his family as he's dealing with that aggressive form of prostate cancer. But over the weekend, because of the release of that book that tries to cover for the media, but exposes the scandal, like I've said on this program numerous times, perhaps the biggest scandal in presidential history of covering up Biden's mental decline. Well, there's a lot of talks about that over the weekend because that book's release is coming right up. So we're going to talk about that as well. The Democrat Party in general. We do have some other Trump updates. I would love to hear your thoughts on the big, beautiful bill act. Your thoughts on your local school budget vote that is tomorrow. Now, on the program, Wednesday, we're going to be talking with Michael Valino. He's running for Steuben County Legislature, District 9. That's Cameron, Canisteo, and Thurston. Then on Thursday, we're going to talk with Judith Rowe about an upcoming fundraiser, so don't miss that. And on Friday, back from Albany, Assemblyman Joe Sempolinski will be our guest. Always a fan favorite. Joe Sempolinski will be joining us on Friday. I'm trying to also book an interview I just wanted to wait because it's so early in the morning. I didn't want to reach out yet. We're going to try to have Sheriff Allard on very soon, either this week or next week. But I'll keep you updated on that. So that's just a quick overview of what this week looks like. We'll be talking a lot about the school budget vote tomorrow to remind you to get out and vote no matter what district you are in. As I said, please comment on your school budget. But if you do so, if you wouldn't mind, I'll read it either way. But if you wouldn't mind, just for accuracy so people understand exactly where you're coming from, if you would say what district you are in and what your thoughts on the school budget has been. I would say in Corning Painted Post, viewers seem to overwhelmingly be opposed to it. But, of course, we are seeing signs and statements online by people that are very supportive of this budget. Now, you know my thoughts on it. It's coming in around 8% that they're asking for an increase. I think most likely the vote, it will fail, and then they'll come back with something like 6.9% increase and say, you're welcome. We did so much work, and we really tightened our belts, and there you go. And that's normally enough, if history proves me right. That's normally enough where people say, well, thank you for doing so much. And most of us still say, wait a minute, it's still 6% or still 5%. That's still a lot at a time when people are struggling to get by. But that's just my thought. That's my prediction. I don't normally like to make predictions, but that one seems kind of, let's say it, predictable. But then again, it could pass all right on Tuesday. But your thoughts, voting yes, voting no, or just your thoughts about it in general. Let's take that short break. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
When it comes to pizza, subs, wings, strombolis, and calzones, nobody does it better than Picnic Pizza. Picnic Pizza has been serving the Twin Tiers for over 40 years. With 2 convenient locations to serve you, Horseheads and Big Flats, you can dine in, carry out, or we'll deliver in a 5-mile radius. We offer everyday in-house specials like a family pack, 1 large pizza, 1 dozen wings, and 1 quart of soda. Having a party? How about a party pack? 1 sheet pizza, 2 dozen wings, and 2 quarts of soda. Picnic Pizza, the best darn pizza in the area.
This is summer with Nissan. It's a great time to buy at the Nissan Summer Sales Event, featuring the award-winning Rogue and Pathfinder. Now more affordable. Get the #1 shopping experience according to J.D. Power. Hurry to a Nissan dealer today.
Now get a low $249 per month lease on Rogue, or get a low $339 per month lease on Pathfinder.
Anywhere can record crimes as they happen, and we're going to watch them right here.
He just took his car.
With cameras everywhere, you can run, but you can't hide. Watch iCrime.
Well, it looks beautiful out there, doesn't it? Thank you to Boss Security for bringing us the Frankly Speaking roof cam. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. It looks like the sun's trying to peek out there. And we are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson's studio. A comment. Oh, no, I'm good. I'm all caught up on comments. It was waves that I was taking care of during the break. But please keep those comments coming in. We do have, as I said, some New York State issues to get to. I want to hear your opinion on a couple of op-eds. Did you see Mike Pence was critical of the Trump administration over the weekend? He was on NBC's Meet the Press. He's starting to, it seems, from my perspective, he's starting to like being that kind of fly in the ointment. He kind of likes being critical of Trump because it gets him a lot of attention. It gets him on Meet the Press. It gets him on outlets that hated him, mind you, when he was the vice president. Hated him. Said disgusting things about him. But he's fallen into that trap of being liked now, just on paper, by the same people that were so critical of him. That he gets that attention because he is a Republican and one that was in the Trump administration that is bad-mouthing the president now. So your thoughts on Mike Pence? We also have, here's a question. Someone posed a question earlier this morning. Do you believe that Jesus today would be considered a conservative or liberal? Here's another question kind of in regards to that. Republicans' populism can sound very progressive. your thoughts on that as well. And, of course, as I keep asking, your opinion on the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. Okay. Now, we know in Albany they're starting to wrap up. What are we to kind of focus on and look at when it comes to the New York State legislative session winding down? Prisons, plastic, and a controversial end-of-life bill are among the issues that are likely to dominate the home stretch of the 2025 session. There will be a draft of environmental proposals, as well hometown bills that address a particular community, an important casino bill, and one to allow the distribution of water or snacks to voters waiting in line at the polls. And this has been a discussion for quite some time. I'm not quite sure about that bill specifically. A Long Island lawmaker also is trying to revive a bill related to the tragic death of 8-year-old Thomas Villalba. The laundry list is not as high profile as items in the recently enacted $254 billion, yes, $250 billion state budget, but the outcomes could be critical for some New Yorkers. The state Senate is expected to adjourn its session on June the 12th, the state assembly June the 17th. So what are we looking at in the final weeks? Well, the end-of-life bill that we've discussed, perhaps the most high-profile bill, is regarding what opponents call physician-assisted suicide and supporters call medical aid in dying. The measure has been around for several years without advancing, but it received a huge momentum boost when the deeply divided assembly approved the bill 81-67. Now it sits in the Senate, where there could be enough support for passage. The bill would allow a, quote, mentally competent, terminally ill adult with a prognosis of 6 months or less to live to request medication from their treating physician that can decide to self-administer to hasten the patient's death. Assembly person Amy Pauline, who has been leading the push for the bill, said in a memo that it would allow terminally ill people to die peacefully and in less pain, maybe at home, and allow them to choose the end-of-life experience they want. Opponents, including some physician groups and the New York State Catholic Conference, said the definition of terminally ill is ambiguous in the proposal. The standard for determining a person's capacity to make the decision isn't well defined. There's no requirement that the patient be a New York resident, and no psychological screening of counseling is required. Further, they say some patients, especially in long-term care, could be susceptible to exploitation and abuse. So we've got to take a break and tell you some of the other things coming up in the 2025 session in Albany. But we know that this will expand. We know that this will grow, much like campaign finance in a way, and how that it keeps getting more, for lack of a better word, corrupted and more corrupted. And that's what concerns so many people about this end-of-life bill, how it can be misused, what it could lead to, like we've seen in Canada. So we can talk about that, get your opinion on it. We've got a couple other New York State issues we've got to get to, but let's wrap up hour number one. We'll take this break, then read your comments, and then get ready for hour number two. So stay with us.
When it comes to fun, it's what we do. See the Spinners live. Get tickets now for $20 at Ticketmaster.com and the gift shop. All sales benefit the Southern Tier Veterans Support Group, Tioga Downs Casino Resort. Fun is what we do.
Attention, Elmaron may lead to vision loss.
If you have suffered vision problems after taking Elmaron to treat bladder pain, call the Hearn Law Firm. Elmaron may be responsible for your vision problems, and you may deserve compensation for your injuries.
If you took Elmaron and now have vision problems, call the Hearn Law Firm at 888-308-3866 right now. You could find out if you qualify in less than 2 minutes. Call 888-308-3866 for your free case review.
Hey, this is John with John's Tree Service. We are locally owned and insured and rated A+ with the Better Business Bureau. John's Tree Service, your source for all your tree needs, where customer satisfaction is our guarantee. Give us a call today at 607-377-6513.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
When it comes to fun, it's what we do. See the Spinners live. Get tickets now for $20 at Ticketmaster.com and the gift shop. All sales benefit the Southern Tier Veterans Support Group, Tioga Downs Casino Resort.
As always, we thank our friends at Boss Security for bringing us the Frankly Speaking Roof Cam. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. A comment from a viewer. I am in the Horsehead School District. Just once, I would love to see a board member campaign on the idea of budget reform and cutting administrative costs. All I hear is let's spend more. Thank you for clarifying which district, though I think that would go right in line, in many people's opinions, of the Corning Painted Post School District as well. So I do appreciate it. I know there's been a lot of flyers sent out. We talked about that last week. Also, a lot of signs with the whole vote yes for the kids. I've always kind of had a little bit of a problem with that statement, as if you're going in and saying, hey, be fiscally responsible means that you're voting no for the kids, because it doesn't seem like the money is an issue for the kids. It seems like it is an administrative issue where the money is going. But I would love to hear your thoughts on it. So far, it has been pretty one-sided with all vote no, but I will not be critical of your point. If you are a vote yes, we'll just read your statement. Okay, you know what? I think I'm going to save that. We're going to do a little housekeeping here, and then we're going to wrap up hour number one and start off hour number two. So let's go through a couple of quick announcements. Again, tomorrow is a school vote. We'll remind you tomorrow as well. But get your thoughts in before people head to the booth so I can read your statements. On Wednesday's program, we're going to be talking with Michael Volino. He's been on the program in the past, if you recall. He is now running for Steuben County Legislature. He is in District 9, which encompasses Cameron, Canisteo, and Thurston. So if you have any questions for Mr. Volino, please get those questions in to me as soon as you can. On Thursday, we'll be talking with Judith Rowe. She has an upcoming fundraiser called Chicken and Jazz. Well, that's interesting. On Sunday, June 1st, from 3 to 8 p.m. at the Radisson Hotel in Corning, they're hosting Chicken and Jazz, a tribute to Green Pastures. It'll be an afternoon of music, food, and fellowship in honor of the historic Green Pastures Jazz Club in Elmira. The event is both a cultural celebration and a fundraiser supporting scholarships and community programs that benefit students and families throughout the Southern Tier. So we look forward to talking with Judy Rowe on Thursday's program. Also on Friday, it's our friend Joe Sempolinski will be joining us. I know he's a fan favorite, so if you have any questions for Joe, if you wouldn't mind getting them in ahead of time. Now, I mentioned the school vote. In Corning specifically, people have asked. There's a few different locations to vote at. You may want to call ahead of time to find out which district you are in. But the polling locations are Corning Painted Post High School, the administrative building at 165 Charles Street in Painted Post. There's the Corning Town Hall, that's South Corning, and then there's Irwin Valley School, 16 Beartown Road, and that is tomorrow, so don't miss it. All right, we got to take a break, and then it is hour number two on this Monday morning edition of Frankly Speaking. Stay with us. We will be right back. More New York State updates when we return.
Enjoy a taste of Finger Lakes at Hector Hideaway.
Dine inside or out on the deck for gorgeous lake views and pair your meal with a local wine, beer, or beverage. Visit us today at Hector Hideaway.
Employee Sing Plus. Due to great success, Chilson Wilcox Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram is doing it all again.
Employee Pricing Plus. You pay what we pay on all 2025 models. Offer ends May 31st.
Chilson Wilcox, selling cars a different way, the right way.
It's the 2025 Waterfront Festival and Cardboard Boat Regatta. A day full of fun for all ages. Register at watkinsglen.com/waterfront festival. Hope that boat is sturdy for the big day, June 14th.
Anywhere can record crimes as they happen, and we're going to watch them right here.
He just took his arm.
Cameras everywhere. You can run, but you can't hide. Watch iCrime.
Catch Twins local news and weather by visiting WYDCTV.com. We've got
Boy, the show is going quickly this morning. Welcome to hour number 2 of Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. Right now, we're going through some New York State updates. We do have some updates on Joe Biden. We had mentioned in the last hour the announcement that he has an aggressive form of prostate cancer. But we are going to talk on the political side because a lot of the discussion was about him and his presidency and his campaign on the weekend shows. Also, we do have a few updates on Trump as well. But we were talking about New York State issues. We mentioned the end of life bill will be coming up as the 2025 session starts to wind down. There's also, this always makes you a little nervous, a green agenda. Activists are pushing a slew of bills, but the one official say he has the best chance at this point aimed at reducing the use of single-use plastics in New York. In short, it would shift the burden of the cost of recycling from municipalities to businesses that have more than $1 million in net annual revenue and distribute plastic packaging. Good. Let's signal again at the New York level. Let's signal that we are not friendly to business. I'm glad that we keep making that crystal clear to the rest of the country. Companies would be charged a fee to municipalities to cover recycling, thereby creating a financial incentive for companies to reduce plastic packaging. Businesses have said it would be burdensome and likely increase consumer costs. Among other ideas, the so-called HEAT Act would end a requirement that utilities hook up to buildings within 100 feet of existing gas lines. Supporters say the cost of those hookups is spread among all ratepayers, and the rule expands the use of natural gas at a time when the state is moving to renewable energy. Opponents say the rule would cost jobs, and the green energy is more expensive than fossil fuels. In addition, an advanced clean truck proposal would delay the enforcement and implementation of new rules because the state lacks sufficient charging stations and long charging times, among other things. Also on the agenda, prisons. Now, we know Governor Hochul in her budget has put in there that she could close 5 more prisons and just with 90 days notice in New York State. Well, the fatal beating of an inmate, followed by the longest prison guard strike in state history, has produced hearing and calls for an array of legislation to address long-running problems. The state budget already included major changes, such as requiring guards to have their body cameras activated at all times and hiring more guards, even lowering the age to 18. But that's where you can still be hired. But there are more proposals on the table, including revamping prisons, allowing the State Corrections Commission to initiate disciplinary action against employees for alleged serious misconduct, and expand the role of the Correctional Association, a watchdog group. On the other side of the spectrum, guards and their supporters want any package of legislation to include a rollback of a recent law that strictly limits the use of solitary confinement as a punishment. You know it as the HALT Act. And finally, they're saying it's an eclectic mix. The Democrat-dominated assembly, yes, because remember, it's one-party rule in Albany, recently approved a bill, largely along party lines, to make clear that it is legal to distribute water and snacks to people waiting in long lines to vote. The bill died in the past, but now has a new Senate sponsor, Senator Zalnor Miri from Brooklyn, which could give it momentum. Also, Senator Monica Martinez said she's committed to reviving a bill that would allow grand juries or law enforcement access to all reports in a child abuse investigation, including those an agency deemed unfounded. It ties to the case of Thomas Villalva, 8, who died of hypothermia back in 2020 after his father and his father's fiancée forced him to sleep in their garage in sub-freezing temperatures. The adults were subsequently convicted of murder. School official, anyway, that's enough on that. So that's what we're looking at as they start to wind down the legislative session. Now, the New York Post is sends out this plea to stop the suicide bill dead in its tracks. I know we've had conversations about this on the program, but now that New York's Assembly has approved the assisted suicide bill, the state Senate has a chance to stop the morally repellent madness. It's believed Majority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins will set aside any personal doubts that she may have to bring it up for passage if enough Democrat senators back it. We beg them all to err on the side of caution and keep this horror off the floor. Look to the brave Democratic dissenters in the other chambers, including figures like Majority Leader Crystal Peoples-Stokes and Brooklyn Democrat Party Chair Rodney Hermanlin. They had the courage to stand up and say no. The measure is sold as a simple mercy for the terminally ill, but it's no such thing. Just for starters, why force doctors sworn to protect life into helping end it? And don't tell us that this is about making suicide safe. Such contradictions show that this is what this is really about. Taking the first step down the mercy-killing road, first on the way to outright state murder of the sick, then the old, then the weak. And you can always start to speculate what happens when your health care is costing the state or the feds too much. That was a discussion during Obamacare, if you recall. And they point specifically to Europe and Canada, and it shows how it does grow out of control. Much like, and I just point to this, though it's a very different bill, look at campaign finance. How much that has changed. Yes, you are paying for campaigns of people like Andrew Cuomo and others, people you may completely disagree with. They use taxpayer funding to pay for these campaigns. Now, why that's important and why I mentioned in this case, what started as a limit that if you donated $250, that was matched. Nothing else more. So if you did $251, it wasn't matched. Now it's up to like $1,050, but only the first $250 will be matched or something like that. It's just growing and growing and only helping the incumbents, the exact thing it was supposed to be working against in a way. But that's how you can see this running out of control, just like we've seen in Europe and Canada. It never stops where advocates claim it's going to stop. Canada's assisted suicide program has already deployed against a mentally ill man who cited hearing loss as the reason he wanted to die. In another case, a disabled veteran who had the gall to ask the government to install a wheelchair ramp at her house, was instead given a hard sell on state-sponsored death. Now, she refused and blew the whistle on the outrage. So they didn't want to pay for a ramp going into her house, so they tried to push her in the direction of doctor-assisted suicide. Think about that. That's the bureaucracy for you. In the Netherlands, mercy has progressed to euthanasia for autism and depression. And at least one U.S. state legislature bill would expand the circle of people allowed to give you death drugs to include naturopaths, doctors with zero medical training. New York's bill doesn't even specify which drugs could legally go into these death cocktails, proving it's not about dignity or freedom or anything like that. It's about state endorsement of the certainty that some lives aren't worth living, which inevitably leads to the state action on that principle to snuff out the lives of sick, crazy, and emotionally vulnerable people. You think how much money we could save. That's all this has ever been about, despite the whining by the death lobby. This is vastly different from accepting that death is coming and refusing extraordinary measures. Hospice care is genuine mercy, far different from any helping hand. Per the most recent reporting, there's real skepticism even among Senate Democrats around the bill, and there should be. Note, too, that the Labour supermajority in Britain's parliament is having serious doubts as it considers final passage of a similar bill. The longer anyone considers this idea, the worse it seems. No wonder its supporters want to rush it through. Do the right thing, senators. Let this one die an utterly undignified death before it comes to the floor. Also, tomorrow, not only will you be voting in your school budget vote, we'll also be keeping a close eye on Brooklyn, southern Brooklyn. Republicans are looking to pick up a state Senate seat in a special election tomorrow, a district that President Trump carried last year with 77% of the vote. GOP candidate Nachman Caller, Nachman Caller, and Democrat Sam Sutton are running for a vacant seat after former state senator Simca Felder recently won a special election to fill a vacancy at the city council. The 22nd district encompasses heavily, the 22nd. Oh, yeah, that's right. This is state senate. The 22nd district encompasses heavy Jewish neighborhoods. Democrats greatly outnumber Republicans, but many are moderate to conservative voters who will cross party lines. So this could be a major swing. Now, we still a lot of time. We don't know what's going to happen, but it'll be interesting if we can flip that seat, and we'll see if the media talks about that. That in New York, where we're told Republicans never have a chance, could this be a scenario where we do go red? It'll be fascinating to watch. Felder, a conservative Democrat who once caucused with Republicans, has not endorsed in the race. Democrat Sutton has deep ties in that community. He is the co-leader of a community federation. Caller, a Republican district leader, is a real estate lawyer who previously ran for the state assembly. Sutton has the support of the Democrat Party establishment, including Richie Torres, a staunch supporter of Israel who is eyeing a run for governor. Caller has the backing of upstate's Representative Elise Stefanik, the House Republican chairwoman, and Representative Mike Lawler, whose Lower Hudson Valley district includes a large Orthodox Jewish population. Also, he has pictures with Donald Trump. So that is going to be one to watch as we give you updates on New York State. Now, one last update on New York State, and then we're going to get to some of the national news about Trump, about Biden. Now, as it was mentioned, two things, if you are just joining us. The big, beautiful bill has left committee. It's got to go through another committee. They're hoping to vote on it in the House by the end of this week. Your thoughts on that? Also, we mentioned our thoughts and prayers go out to Biden and his family as it has been announced that he is dealing with an aggressive form of prostate cancer. Now, over the weekend, there was a lot of discussion about Joe Biden, and we are going to talk about that separate from that announcement. But your thoughts on this? I know we've got a lot of fans out there of Robert F. Kennedy Jr., but David Califano at the New York Post writes that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. says he's fighting the kind of politicized science that drove Fruit Loops to the top of the food pyramid. That's a quote. President Trump's Secretary of Health and Human Services has made a national brand out of questioning regulatory capture, challenging false consensus, and demanding transparency in public health. But when it comes to fracking in New York, Kennedy wasn't the whistleblower. He was the myth maker. Will he apply the same skepticism to the fracking ban he himself helped create? In 2013, Kennedy personally lobbied then Governor Andrew Cuomo to abandon a modest plan to permit just 40 test wells for hydraulic fracturing to extract natural gas in the state's southern tier. Obviously a huge issue around here at the time. His justification, a then unreleased public health study from Pennsylvania's health system, which Kennedy claimed would soon confirm the health dangers of fracking. The study was never published, but the myth it supported proved useful. Cuomo reversed course, the test wells never opened, and the fracking ban, initially pitched as temporary, hardened into permanent policy. The damage was real. While neighboring Pennsylvania surged ahead with an energy boom, New York's rural communities were left behind. You think of the farmers, the landowners that suffered because of this, a lot of farmers paying exorbitant taxes that were really looking towards perhaps making some money back off their land through fracking. Billions of dollars in energy resources went untapped. Thousands of good-paying jobs never materialized. Local economies that would have been revitalized instead fell further in decline. In 2009, the southern tier counties of New York had higher GDP per capita than their neighbors across the border in northern Pennsylvania. Then New York banned fracking while Pennsylvania embraced it. Over the next decade, the economic trajectories flipped. A recent Heritage Foundation study compared these geologically similar twin-tier regions and found that New York's ban cost its counties an estimated $11,000 per resident or $27,000 per household in lost economic output. While Pennsylvania saw a boom in jobs, small business growth, and tax revenues, New York's rural economy stagnated. From motels and restaurants to trucking and local trades, fracking fueled a broad-based revival in Pennsylvania. And you've seen it yourself along some of, if you've been into certain areas of Pennsylvania, you've seen that boom unfold. In banning it, New York didn't just shut the door on drilling, it shut out an entire era of opportunity. Now, Kennedy is the nation's top health official, and he's in a position to revisit the very kind of politicized, fear-based narratives he claims to oppose. Kennedy has made a career out of attacking what he calls inconvenient science, from vaccine safety to Big Food's grip on national dietary guidelines. He rails against media manipulation, corporate influence, and government collusion with special interests. But if he's serious about any of that, he must apply the same standard to himself. The arguments used to ban fracking in New York haven't held up. Oversight has improved, technology has advanced, the environmental and health risks are far more manageable than the alarmist rhetoric of 2014 suggested. And yet the ban remains. Frozen in place by outdated talking points and a decade-old political decision Kennedy helped orchestrate. Fracking is not without environmental consequences, but neither is energy poverty, rural economic decline, or mass out-migration. Public health is about more than air quality. It's about jobs, housing, and opportunity, too. If Kennedy truly wants to lead a national conversation on science, health, and integrity, he should start by revisiting the story he helped sell. New York's fracking ban was not grounded in rigorous science, but in fear, political pressure, and a conveniently timed myth. Kennedy doesn't regulate energy, but he does shape how the country thinks about public health trade-offs and scientific trust. He can't have it both ways, decrying captured science when it suits his current agenda while ignoring it when it benefits his personal convictions or past positions. To restore public trust in science, Kennedy should call for a full independent review of New York's fracking ban. This isn't about pleasing the energy industry, which has largely abandoned hopes for fracking in New York, or about political leverage in the ongoing Constitution pipeline dispute between Trump and Governor Hochul. Rather, it's about Kennedy modeling the same transparency and intellectual honesty he demanded from others in challenging established views. The credibility of his entire mission depends on it. Anything less would confirm what many already suspect. The Kennedy's fight against politicized science applies only to causes he opposes, and never to the environmental narratives he helped create. I thought that was a pretty powerful piece, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on it, as so many people have dealt with that for years now, hoping beyond hope that we would have fracking at some point. We wondered if Hochul would change her position after Kamala Harris came out in support of fracking, but we know that was more to win Pennsylvania, and we never thought that much would be done on that. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit here about Biden on the political front. We can talk about that breaking news story yesterday that he is dealing with an aggressive form of prostate cancer. Also breaking news, of course, a big, beautiful bill moving along, looking like a vote in the House before the end of the week. Keep those comments, keep those waves coming in. Your thoughts on the school budget, which is tomorrow, let me know. We'll be right back. Running just a tad bit late. Stay with us.
If you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and have been diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. There's no fee unless we win your case. Call today.
Get yours at Current Power Sports in Pine City, New York and Wellsboro, Pennsylvania.
When you think swimming pools, think Hesselsen's. Hesselsen's offers expert advice, professional service, and a complete line of chemicals and accessories. Replacement liners, motors and pumps, automatic vacuums, skimmers, ladders, steps, and more. Hesselsen's has it all. Do you have a chemical question? Come in for Hesselsen's free computerized water analysis and the widest selection of chlorine and specialty chemicals. With Hesselsen's help, you can clean up any pool problem and swim in sparkling clean water. Let Hesselsen's show you how easy it can be to take care of your swimming pool. Remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselsen's.
Big Fox 10 p.m. News is the first primetime local news for the Twin Tiers. Our reporters, Haley and Dante, scour the southern tier to bring you up-to-date news regarding local businesses, economics, and how national decisions impact our area. If you're not near a TV, don't worry. You can also catch our 10 p.m. news live on WYDCTV.com/livestream. Don't miss Big Fox 10 p.m. news on WYDC, on TV, or our website.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the school budget vote, which is tomorrow. All right, let's go to some viewer comments. Thank you, Frank. New York needs fracking. I agree. That's why I thought that was a really good message coming from the New York Post. Let's just get the conversation going again. I'm bringing fracking to New York, so I am glad that you appreciated it, and that's why I wanted to bring it to you. Comment from Ken. Do you remember that last year the Democrats put up a bill called the Social Security Fairness Act, which passed with Republican help? The act eliminated the windfall provision, which basically said you couldn't have a government pension and Social Security. It also eliminated the government pension offset, which lowered the amount of a spousal Social Security benefit for some receiving a government pension. The original intent of these two provisions was to not supply Social Security benefits to someone that had a lucrative government pension. Interestingly, the people that benefit the most from this act are the politicians that passed it. With Social Security defaulting in about the year 2035 and the Democrats pretending that the Republicans are trying to cut benefits now, isn't it interesting that when the Democrats were in power, they voted in a 10-year estimated reduction in Social Security funds to the tune of $200 billion, which helped fill their pockets and doesn't help extend Social Security benefits to their constituents. Very good point, Ken. I appreciate that. I had kind of forgotten about the Social Security Fairness Act voted in last year. Okay, over the weekend, former President Joe Biden's use of the auto pen to sign last-minute pardons looks like a much bigger scandal after the full audio of the scattered interview with Special Counsel Robert Hur was released on Saturday. If you missed that, it was released. Miranda Devine said that Biden shows that he's crazy like a fox with selective memory in the release of that interview. We'll talk about that in just a second. But Trump posted on Truth Social, whoever had control of the auto pen is looking to be a bigger and bigger scandal by the moment. Members, including former Representative Liz Cheney and Senator Adam Schiff, were granted the blanket clemency during his final days in office in what appeared to be auto pen authorized documents, according to a subsequent Heritage Foundation analysis. On Saturday, Axios released 5 hours of the Biden October 8th and 9th sit-down with her, during which he spoke in strained tones and mixed up key information from his personal and political career. Quote, "It's obviously very important to answer our questions truthfully," the special counsel said at the start of the interview. "We hope that you'll put forth your best effort and really try to make your best recollection in response to the questions we ask, because I acknowledge that some of the questions we are asking relate to events that happened years ago. I'm a young man, so it's not a problem," said the then 80-year-old president. But Biden went on to struggle with dates and names, inaccurately claiming his late son, Beau, had been deployed or was dying around 2017 when he departed the vice presidency and took with him batches of classified documents. In fact, the former Delaware Attorney General passed from brain cancer in 2015. "Remember, in this time frame, my son would have been deployed or is dying, and so it was." And by the way, there were still a lot of people at the time when I got out of the Senate that were encouraging me to run in this period, except the president. He also flubbed the year that Trump was first elected, November of 2017, and was unable to call up the name of the National Archives or what a fax machine is, according to the transcripts. White House counsel included the president's personal attorney, Bob Bauer, interjecting to assist him when his memory failed. "I have a library, and the library has 2 filing cabinets, and it was built into the walls. When I built that home, built into the walls, a space for a copy machine, for what do you call it when they send these?" He also veered off onto tangents, including one about a trip he took to Mongolia as vice president, where he got to fire a bow and arrow in 2011, bragging to her that he was not a bad archer before the special counsel redirected the conversation. Her later determined that the president willfully retained classified material at his private residence, but that he would never be found guilty because a jury would be sympathetic to a well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory. The newly released audio shows that Biden gave inconsistent answers about his reasons for keeping the sensitive files at home. Okay. Again, the president raged. Remember, it all began with dirty cop James Comey, Obama, a hapless and cognitively impaired sleepy Joe Biden, and my now very famous accusation that they spied on my campaign. Whoever had control of the auto pen is just the beginning. The biggest crime of all is that the 2020 presidential election was rigged. MAGA won the election by millions of votes, and everyone knows it. God bless America, for the fight has just begun. Now, it's unclear how many auto pen signatures the Biden White House authorized before he left office, but scores of presidents dating back to at least Harry Truman have used the mechanical device to sign official documents. Now, according to Miranda Devine, who listened to the tape, she believes that he's crazy like a fox. The full audio paints a different picture. Biden is in command of the facts when it suits him, but grows vague and filibusters every time he perceives the prosecutors are building a trap. Crazy like a fox. His lawyer, one of 5 attorneys nursing him through the interview, interrupts every time Biden made inaccurate or incriminate himself and laughs like a hyena when his client gets feisty or cracks a sarcastic joke at the prosecutor's expense. At one point, Herr says, "You appear to have a photographic recall." You can hear the prosecutor's frustration. They're in a constitutional straitjacket and faced with a 5-hour time limit. Biden reminds them out of the gate that he has just got off the phone with Benjamin Netanyahu discussing the October 7th attack, to remind them that they are keeping him from important business. The bottom line is Biden lies throughout. He denies keeping classified material for his personal use because he's so upright and honorable. Yet prosecutors found reams of it in his home, garage, and Biden Penn Center office. They had a recorded conversation with his ghostwriter, Mark Wanitzer, in which Biden said he had just found all the classified stuff downstairs. But they caught him, meaning Biden, red-handed. But now they were faced with the dilemma. Do they find the sitting president criminally liable and label him a pathological liar, causing a massive scandal and constitutional crisis? Or do they use his age and mental fog as an excuse not to charge him? Pretty clear what was the easier path. Now, Representative Jim Clyburn, oh my goodness, I'm running late again. Jim Clyburn has a different take on Joe Biden. We'll talk about that when we come back. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking.
Hey, this is John with John's Tree Service. Spring is here and summer is coming. Do you have a tree in your backyard that just doesn't look nice? Kind of makes your property look a little rough? John's Tree Service, licensed, insured, locally owned, and rated A+ with the Better Business Bureau. Do you have a monster tree in your backyard? Is there no access to it? Can it not be climbed? Is it too dead? We can put our crane and reach over your house and pull that tree down, do it in a safe manner. Coming to a neighborhood near you to service all your tree needs. Call today at 607-377-6513.
Scamming is a huge problem today. Worldwide, seniors lost $4.8 billion to scammers in 2024. The Steuben County Office for the Aging is here to help. Come to our seminar recognizing and avoiding financial scams and identifying elder abuse. Monday, June 9th at the Corning Senior Center in Corning, New York from 1:30 to 4 p.m. Learn how to identify scams, how to protect yourself, and learn fraud watch tips. Come to the Corning Senior Center in Corning, New York from 1:30 to 4 p.m. on June 9th. Learn more. Go to steubencountiny.gov/235.
Attention, it's the 2025 Waterfront Festival and Cardboard Boat Regatta. A day full of fun for all ages. Register at watkinsglen.com/waterfront festival. Hope that boat is sturdy for the big day, June 14th, 2025. Race starts at 2 p.m. On your mark, get set, row.
Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. And how can we help like that? And our small businesses, not to sound cliche, but are the backbone of our community. Let's talk about thanks, as always, to you, the viewers, for sending in your texts and your voicemails. Now we go to a comment. This is from John in Elmira. Make sure to catch Frankly Speaking only on AM Big Fox News WYDC, or visit our website at The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. Welcome back as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. A comment from a viewer. Did you hear the school board has $7 million in fund balance that they have not talked about or used towards this budget? This is why people leave this state. 5 of my younger nieces all left. I had not heard that. I'm not sure which school district you're referring to specifically. But I would tend to agree with you that it's these large budgets where they add more of a tax burden on people absolutely is why people are leaving this state, this mass exodus. That's why I'm always surprised that the school budget passes in most instances. And the reason I'm always surprised is people complain essentially nonstop about the cost of living in New York State. And then when they have an opportunity to vote down a tax increase, they don't always do so. It always kind of shocks me or surprises me. But I would agree with you that this is one of the reasons why people are leaving the state. So we're talking about Joe Biden. Representative Jim Clyburn was on CNN's State of the Union, and he believes that Biden still could have served a second term. Yes, I thought that back then. I still think that, but I don't know that, meaning if he still believes that Joe Biden could have served out another 4 years. Clyburn, who was widely credited with rescuing Biden's then flailing presidential bid in 2020, admitted that Biden's disastrous debate performance against Trump is what left him second guessing. I watched the debate and you and I talked about it. And yes, I was concerned. Now the question is this a condition or is this an incident? A lot of us were a bit concerned about his schedule in the run-up to the debate. He took 2 overseas trips, came back, and started preparing for that debate. Jake Tapper asked Clyburn whether the Democrats' incredibly low standing with the public is related to the impression among many that they hid his actual dysfunction, his non-functioning abilities from the American people. But again, the media, Jake Tapper won't admit it. Okay. Sorry. I'll talk about that in a second. That Jake Tapper is trying to protect the media, but it's why the media's lost so much credibility, because they refuse to report on this. And now they're playing rewriting history with this book. But Clyburn said it very well could have. I have looked at the numbers behind the numbers to come to any conclusion as to what exactly is going on here. I have talked to people, talked to students, and people still feel that Joe Biden had the capacity to do the work that needed to be done. They still feel that Joe Biden was a good president, and I do as well. But these people are also concerned when they look back at those tapes, they remember the debate, and they're concerned as to whether or not that was, in fact, just an incident or whether that was a condition that was being kept from people. I have no way of knowing which one is true. And on Friday, the leaked audio of that interview with her was released. Now, Clyburn reflected that he had not seen the level of deterioration that was on display in the leaked her tapes during his personal interactions with Biden. I saw Biden often, but not as often as people seem to think. I saw him, I talked to him on the telephone very often, and I never saw anything that I thought was outside of the ordinary. So he thinks he could still be president. But he also said, Chris Murphy said, it was an absolute mistake for the party to not listen. And I think we all bear responsibility, he said. This is Chris Murphy on Sunday. We maybe didn't listen as early as we should have, in part because we have immense loyalty to this man who has led this country out of a pandemic, who had been maybe the most prestigious legislator or prodigious legislator as a president. Ultimately, in retrospect, you can't defend what the Democrat Party did because we are stuck with a corrupt president in the Oval Office, and we should have given ourselves a better chance to win. Beto, we got to take a break. Yep, I can't run late on this one. We're going to talk more about this because it was a big topic now, of course, since these morning shows, these Sunday morning shows, it was announced that Biden has been diagnosed with a aggressive form of prostate cancer. Now, this news is from earlier, before that announcement. was made. I think it's still a very important conversation that they're having. So I think it's still worth talking about. Van Jones did not pull any punches. I would like to hear your comments on the school budget or on any issue. Thank you for filling us in. To that viewer who clarified that they were referring to Corning when they said, did you hear the school board has $7 million in fund balance that they have not talked about or used towards this budget? This is why people leave this state. 5 of my younger nieces have all left. A lot of people are leaving, folks, and I totally understand your concern. Thank you for that. Keep those comments coming in, and we will be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us.
Attention, Elmeron may lead to vision loss.
If you have suffered vision problems after taking Elmeron to treat bladder pain, call the Hearn Law Firm. Elmeron may be responsible for your vision problems, and you may deserve compensation for your injuries.
If you took Elmeron and now have vision problems, call the Hearn Law Firm at 888-308-3866 right now. You could find out if you qualify in less than 2 minutes. Call 888-308-3866 for your free case review.
Your water is delicious.
I know, right? It's this Culligan Smart drinking water system.
What do you think is going on in there?
I'm smelling a touch of chlorine.
Yeah, I'm detecting some PFAS.
I'm also getting notes of lead.
Perfection.
Sending it up.
Here we go.
Certified to reduce more than 70 contaminants. It's like having your own team of water experts. See the smart difference at Culligan.com.
Anywhere can record crimes as they happen, and we're going to watch them right here.
He just took his arm.
With cameras everywhere, you can run, but you can't hide. Watch iCrime.
Catch Twin Tiers local news and weather by visiting WYDCTV.com. We've got daily and weekly weather forecast, question of the day, things to do, and more. WYDCTV.com, your website for everything Twin.
And we are back. We want to thank Boss Security in Horseheads for bringing us that view of historic Market Street. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson's studio. So we're talking about Joe Biden, but we can change up at any moment. And feel free to comment on all the issues of the day. Former Democrat Representative Beto O'Rourke told the podcast Pod Save America that former President Joe Biden failed the country by seeking re-election. It's not just you and me, but our kids and grandkids and the generations that follow that might have to pay the price for this. We might very well lose the greatest country that this world has ever known. Wow, talk about rhetoric, huh? The former congressman and failed 2022 Texas gubernatorial candidate continued to place blame on Biden's re-election efforts for the Democrat Party's loss, saying it might be in part because of the decision that Biden and those around him made to run for re-election. Instead of having an open primary where the greatest talent that the Democrat Party can muster could be on that stage, to have a competition of ideas and track record and vision, and really excite not just Democrats, but the people of the country who did want change. He claimed that if anything was clear coming out of 2024, it was that Americans wanted change. He also criticized members of Congress in the lead up to the election, claiming that Biden was running circles around them in closed-door briefings. It just doesn't add up with what I'm seeing with my own lying eyes, he said. But remember, you were criticized, you were accused of being a conspiracy theorist if you suggested that there was obviously an issue with his mental acuity. This is critical if you want to win in 2024. It's no secret that Democrat voters are unexcited about Biden. That's putting it politely. It's no secret thanks to the polls that we read. The young voters especially are leaving his banner in droves. Now will they vote for Donald Trump? Will they vote for Kennedy? Will they not vote at all? I don't know, but let's give them a reason to vote for the president, he said at the time. Now, Van Jones calls this cover-up a crime against the Republic. And you've heard me say this in the past. I think it's arguably the biggest scandal in presidential history. Democrat luminary Van Jones went after the top aides and allies around former President Joe Biden. Jones admitted that he was surprised by the degree of Biden's decline and vented his outrage at lengths about Biden's allies and how they concealed it. He said on State of the Union, "I was shocked. I loved Joe Biden. I got a chance to work with him when I was part of the Obama administration. I loved him more every day. I was shocked to see his condition when he came out, and so was the world." The Democrat pundit, who previously worked as a special advisor for green jobs in the Obama administration, harked back to his despondent reaction to Biden's fumbling debate performance. That wasn't the first time he was in that condition, Jones said. The book makes it very, very clear there are people who knew and said nothing, and that is a crime against the Republic. I think the Democrats are going to pay for a long time for being a part of what is now being revealed to be a massive cover-up. It was a massive cover-up, but again, they're doing us a disservice by lying and not exposing the media in all of this too. They're trying to cover their tracks. They're trying to suggest that it was all the people surrounding Biden, making them scapegoats. It was very much the media defending him, protecting him, saying that he was running circles around everybody else, saying that he was sharp as a tack. But to Van Jones' point, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. He says this is going to cost Democrats for a long, long time because of this massive cover-up. Heading into the debate, Jones had publicly acknowledged concerns about Biden's mental acuity and warned that the verbal bout could be a game changer. Jones later became emotional after Biden appeared weak on stage, if you remember, nearly crying or kind of crying. On Sunday, Jones said that Democrats need to do deeper soul searching and confront hard truths about why they lost. It took 3.5 years before Barack Obama emerged with a message. What did we do in the meantime? We looked inside. Donors got reorganized. There was a deep internal reflection. Before we get out here and start trying to tell people why they should like us, we need to look in the mirror, reorganize ourselves, get bad people and bad ideas out of the way. And when we'll be able to come forward in the midterm. Right now, we need to apologize to the American people that we were part of something that wasn't on the up and up, meaning this covering up of Biden. Now, Tapper had asked strategist David Axelrod about this on ABC's The View, on State of the Union, but about Biden's appearance on The View, that he would have won a rematch against Trump if he stayed in the race. Axelrod said, "I think that's preposterous." He's being told that by Mike Donnellan, his top political aide. "I think Donnellan is just so tied to Biden emotionally that he could not accept the truth." The analytics before the debate within the Democrat Party, within both the campaign and outside the campaign, showed him with less than a 5% chance of winning. Had he run, Democrats would have lost at least 3 more Senate seats, probably would have lost some more states. So again, Van Jones saying that Democrats will pay for covering up Biden's decline for a long time. They've lost credibility, like the media, who covered this up at the time as well, and now trying to cover up the cover-up. All right, we got a couple other things to talk about on this, and then we're going to talk about Trump, all that, and much more. Oh, I got a minute here. I guess I don't have to rush around. As I mentioned earlier on Meet the Press, Chris Murphy said the president would have gotten out of the race earlier. There's no doubt the Democrat Party would have been better served by having the ability to have a primary. Kamala Harris probably would have done very well in the process, but in retrospect, we lost, so we can't defend the way in which our politics played out. The new book, Original Sin by Jake Tapper, goes even further and details, this is host Kristen Welker, goes even more into the cover-up from the White House, from top aides around the president. Here's a little bit of what they have written. One senior White House aide who left because they didn't think Biden could run again confessed to us that we attempted to shield him from his own staff. So many people didn't realize the extent of the decline beginning in 2023. Do you think some people, some top officials in the Biden White House covered up the state of his mental health at the time? Murphy said, I haven't read the book and I don't know what to say about the allegations they made. But I know that I worked with him throughout 20 and 22 on the gun bill, which has saved, by the way, thousands of lives. He was intimately involved in those negotiations. Ultimately, in retrospect, you can't defend what the Democrat Party did because we are stuck with a madman, with a corrupt president in the Oval Office, and we should have given ourselves a better chance to win. Now, according to Politico's Adam Wren and Holly Otterbein, Joe Biden may have cost Democrats the White House in 2024. Their inability to admit it might hobble them in 2028. Potential presidential contenders have mostly dodged questions about his condition while in office. They're also sidestepping whether the party would have more forcefully called on him to abandon his reelection bid earlier. With Biden out of office and getting media dragged daily, there would seem to be little political imperative to stick beside him. But there's also an obviously downside to addressing him at all, inviting comparisons to the party's boosting of the former president in the past. Yet, some Democrats think a willingness to break from the field on Biden could open the door to an outside candidate. All right, we got a couple more things on this. I see a lot of comments from viewers, a couple comments from viewers. Keep them coming in. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
It's the 2025 Waterfront Festival and Cardboard Boat Regatta, a day full of fun for all ages. Register at watkinsglen.com/waterfront festival. Hope that boat is sturdy for the big day, June 14th.
Missy, face off in
Why can't we watch DuckTales? Because we don't learn anything.
Book Smarts versus Street Smarts.
Is it working? Are you feeling motivated? Very.
It's the battle of twins.
Life is so confusing. I always hoped it would be easier for me when I grew up. It's gonna be all right. You were faking. Bazinga.
Young Sheldon.
Weeknights at 6:30 on Big Fox.
The Twins' first prime-time local news. Catch weather, local and national news, events, and more with our anchors, Dante, Haley, and Ann. Find out what's happening in your community and more by watching Big Fox 10 p.m. News on WYDC.
The Big's website is here now. WYDCTV.com. Local and national news that keeps you informed and involved. WYDCTV.com. Today's weather, up to date and in your town. WYDCTV.com. Sports news, local events, and health stories that affect you. WYDCTV.com. The Big Fox website. Your news here now. WYDCTV.com.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Can brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Let's go to some viewer comments. As far as the Corning Painted Post school budget, they want to raise the salaries and fringe benefits from $91,908,549 to $96,782,688. That's $5 million more, and they have $7 million in the reserve. Totally ridiculous. Vote no, people. Thank you very much. Comment from a different viewer. In my opinion, it should cost Democrats. This is in regards to the cover-up of Biden's mental health. It should cost Democrats for a very, very long time. They act like they didn't see this. I saw this in my humble little abode in Corning, New York, and I didn't need a PhD. They really think we fall for anything. It's completely insulting. I would agree, and I think it's insulting that the media is pretending that they weren't a part of it. That's what I find very insulting. They're trying to rewrite history so that they can convince the people reading this book that the media never had anything to do with this cover-up. Even though if you go back to some of the tape with Jake Tapper, you can see him being involved in this cover-up. Now, the new book reflects Biden's family's delusion of grandeur and how their greatest strength is living in their own reality, according to Miranda Devine. There were so many lies told by Joe Biden, his wife, and their aides that it's hard to distinguish delusion from reality when assessing his disastrous presidency and determining who needs to be held accountable for all the crimes and cover-up. But let's start with Hunter Biden. According to an exclusive preview of the upcoming book, Original Sin, at the same time that the White House and Hunter were denying the existence of his abandoned laptop, Biden aides were so concerned about the political fallout that they secretly organized for the Democratic National Committee to obtain a copy of the hard drive. The re-election campaign needed to be politically prepared, and Biden needed to be personally prepared. Wow, how did they get that secretly, huh? Biden aides spent months mining the copy through Hunter's homemade, well, we'll say, we don't need to go through all the photos and things like that. Not to mention the copious evidence of influence peddling and millions of dollars of payments from China and Ukraine. In the end, they created a defense dossier laying out the most damning material that could be weaponized against Joe in his re-election bid. In early 2023, after Republicans took back the House and prepared to hold investigations into Biden's family corruption, Joe's lawyer, Bob Barr, privately met with the president and the first lady for an hour to go through all the sordid details and perhaps to convince them that running for re-election would put the entire family through unnecessary embarrassment and legal jeopardy. Neither Bauer nor DNC communications director responded to requests for confirmation last week. So we are relying on Tapper and Thompson's fact-checking. Unlike Biden's aides, Hunter was looking forward to the fight. He had the delusion that this would be good for him or for his father. He would finally get a chance to fight back after lying low. Biden aides sensed that Hunter saw an opportunity to redeem his reputation. According to the book, Hunter brushed off the sordid revelation from the laptop, the influence peddling, the infidelities, the drug use, the child he had denied. He was clean and in a new relationship, and that's all that mattered. Perhaps the deepest insight from Original Sin is an acknowledgement that Joe Biden has spent a lifetime spinning self-aggrandizing fantasy into a shared delusion that ensnared his entire family and closest aides, and ultimately the Democrat Party. The Biden's greatest strength is living in their own reality, someone close to the family told the author, and Biden himself is gifted at creating it. Bo isn't going to die. Hunter's sobriety is stable. Joe always tells the truth. Joe cares more about his family than his own ambition. They stick to the narrative and repeat it. He described the shared delusion as almost a theology, a new religious faith in Biden's ability to rise again. Part of the theology is made up of narratives and questionable accuracy. The image of Joe aviators, ice cream, 67 Corvette. These are not universally held impressions among those who know them well. The president was fond of using the formal family motto of giving my word as a Biden, but they had another more private saying, never call a fat person fat. It wasn't just about the politeness, it was about ignoring ugly facts. From 2020 until 2024, all this resulted in an almost spiritual refusal to admit that Biden was declining. Original Sin has opened the door for Democrats to pin all the blame for their disastrous loss on the former president. But Biden's prostate cancer diagnosis, announced in a statement Sunday from his personal office on the eve of the book's publication, will conveniently mute that criticism. It's the ultimate sympathy card. Okay, they asked the question, and we have to take a break, so get your last-minute comments in as we wrap up today's edition. Is every top Democrat running for president? Voters could be forgiven for thinking so. The party's up-and-comers, heavy on tough talk and light on new ideas, are being remarkably open about wanting to run despite how early it is. Even people like Tim Walz and all that. A lot of people involved in wanting to run for president. And according to a new report, the Democrat National Committee is on the brink of chaos in the aftermath of the DNC moving forward with a process to oust David Hogg as vice chair. Officials in the DNC have reportedly found themselves in a war of words over the issues at play. In a statement issued, Hogg noted that while the vote was based on how the DNC conducted its officers' election, it was impossible to ignore the broader context. All right, we're going to read your last-minute comments. Stay with us.
If you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and have been diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. There's no fee unless we win your case. Call today.
Often referred to as one of the most versatile areas of medicine, the medical surgical unit offers nurses a chance to care for patients with a variety of needs.
Each day is a busy day. We are the primary surgical unit. Together, we make it work.
Arnett Health is looking for RNs and LPNs who are eager to treat a wide patient population and can communicate well with providers across the system.
We really do lean on each other in order to provide superior care to our patients.
For more information on employment opportunities, go to arnetthealth.org/careers.
When you're on, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/BigFoxNews.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. Rick writes in, good morning, Frank. Well, good morning, Rick. I was watching where Springsteen was bashing the Trump administration at a concert over in jolly old England. Old Trumper didn't like it and bashed back at Bruce. What Trump needs to remember is that Springsteen is the boss, not him. Always has been, always will be. I have such a problem, as a side note, with Bruce Springsteen, who's a multi-billionaire lecturing everybody at these concerts about how bad the rich are, and then yet he charges, what, $150 for a general admission ticket? I don't know. Back to what Rick was saying. Eat the tariffs. Hey, Walmart, I guess he told you. I'd say, hey, Donald, your idea, you get money. You eat the tariffs. Just heard the bad news on Joe. Guy has certainly been through a lot. Thoughts and prayers to Joe and his family. My wife is a cancer survivor. Scary time. Joe's a good man. Proud to have given him our votes. What is worse? To do something when you should, Biden, or do something when you shouldn't, Trump? Thank you, Rick. Comment from a different viewer. I appreciate this statement. But some of these I can't verify, or I don't have time to verify. So I don't want you to take it personally, whoever this viewer is. I just have to be careful on a couple of them. But remember that your tax increase will support when you vote for the Corning Painted Post School District. Here are some examples. An administrative secretary with a $100,000 salary, more than any teacher with 30 years service. A former principal golden parachuted with a $197,000 salary as school district print shop manager until retirement. The other ones, I'm sorry, I can't verify this quickly. But I appreciate your overall statement. Vote no on the budget. Vote yes for Doge. So the overwhelming consensus, at least from these viewers this morning, seems to be a no vote on the school budget. And I appreciate those comments coming in. Comment from a different viewer. The Biden administration was in talks to get the luxury jet from Qatar in 2022. I had not heard that. Could you send me an article on that? That's interesting. Okay. How are we doing? Oh, organizers are planning a nationwide protest for Trump's birthday. Agitators are planning a not too surprising birthday gift for Donald Trump on his 79th birthday. Yet another anti-Trump demonstration. Organizers say they're hoping to upstage a military parade the president had planned for June the 14th. A comment from a viewer before we wrap up. I just had to start the week off with a little chuckle. I saw this today. Oh, so true. You're more likely to train a hamster to fly a plane than convince a liberal of reality. Thank you for setting that along. Oh, look, and even a last-minute wave coming in. So, yes, a nationwide protest on Trump's birthday, June 14th. They're calling it No King's Day. Man, there's been a lot of protests. When do they start to fade out? Maybe they don't. Maybe they don't. Pence says that Trump criticizing U.S. foreign policy in Saudi Arabia disservice to veterans. He criticized Trump on tariffs and key foreign policy issues as he watches from afar. Really, really afar. Trump did say that Walmart should eat the tariffs as Walmart signals that they will increase their prices. Rebecca Grant writes a piece, Trump reshapes U.S. foreign policy with widely successful business first Middle East trip. We're out of time for today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Thank you to everyone who joined us. Thank you for all the comments. Tomorrow is the school budget vote, so we'll be talking about that extensively on the program, as well as all the issues of the day. So thanks for joining us, and we will be back tomorrow morning with Frankly Speaking, only on WYDC TV Big Fox. We will see you bright and early. I look forward to it already.
You want it, we got it.
it at Current Power Sports. Powerful, capable, affordable off-road machines. Tough, hard-working tractors. All styles and sizes of trailers to haul whatever you need. Whether you're looking for speed or utility, you'll find the right machine at Current Power Sports. With a CF Moto or Segway Sport, utility, or ATV, you'll enjoy hours of off-road thrills. And when you need to get the work done, there's a Mahindra tractor model built just for you. Check out Current Power Sports in Pine City, New York and Wellsboro, Pennsylvania.